A major winter storm on the way to impact travel for a portion of the state. Who gets hit with the snow? I'll let you know.
Well, yes, I believe that what is being alleged and what we saw, which is incitement to insurrection, is an impeachable offense. If not, what is?
Senator Mitt Romney sounding off on the upcoming impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Hear what he has to say about that and President Biden's proposed pandemic relief plans.
And downtown Salt Lake City continuing to grow, but what will need to be sacrificed to keep that growth going? We'll take a closer look for you in our latest Fox 13 360 report.
The Utah National Guard returns home from the nation's capital. Hear why this experience turned out to be one of making memories.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Well, first on Fox 13 is tonight, the calm before another storm for some Utahns. Here's a look right now at some of the snow that was falling today in Bryce Canyon. Our central and southern Utah viewers should expect to see more snow soon. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I know a lot of people are waiting for this one. I'm Amy Ney.
And I'm Brian Schnee. Let's send it over to meteorologist Breck Bolton for this first alert action day for central and southern Utah. Breck?
That's right. We issue a first alert action day when we know weather is going to have a major impact, especially as we've been talking about central and southern Utah. And it looks like it's going to hit early Monday morning. Yes, major winter storm on the way. We're going to see snow accumulations both for the valleys and mountains, which means treacherous roads traveling along I-15, I-70 Monday through Tuesday. It will be a concern. So looking from Nephi to St. George, it's going to have an impact in that region. Now, as we look from the National Weather Service, we take a look at the winter storm warning that's in effect. That's all highlighted in pink. As you can see, it incorporates the mountains of southern Utah. Projections are a foot to 2 feet of snow as we look over the next 48 hours. And of course, that means traveling along I-15 will be a concern, as this will be in effect until Tuesday morning. Now, winter weather advisory as that storm moves further northward throughout Monday into Tuesday. We're going to see valley accumulation, Nephi, Fillmore, Richfield, down through Cedar City, over towards areas such as Loa, Bicknell. And then, of course, we're going to see big concerns over the higher terrain. That's Boulder, Escalante, Bryce Canyon. It's going to have a big impact and change things up here over the next couple of days. Now, it's fairly quiet right now. Southern Utah, a few isolated snow showers, looks like just south of Cedar City. But this is the storm that is lining up, making its move, producing widespread precipitation across California. And again, in its sights is southern Utah. So looking at your hour-by-hour forecast, St. George tomorrow morning, as you're looking at the morning commute, things get going. A mixture of rain and snow. We'll even see snow accumulations for the Dixie area. Now, how much snow are we expecting? We're going to be answering that coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Brack. Well, a major car crash closed Big Cottonwood Canyon for several hours today, and it sent at least one victim to the hospital in serious condition. Unified Police say this two-car crash happened around 1:30 this afternoon, right near mile marker 6, near the S curve there on the road. One of the cars involved in the wreck slid off the road and roughly 40 feet down into the ravine below. The heavy snowfall this weekend has created some slick roads and dangerous driving conditions in both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, which were busy. Now, Utah Highway Patrol troopers have responded to 212 accidents between Saturday and Sunday.
With snow coming down across the state this weekend, drivers now flocking to tire shops. These snowy conditions can be a challenge to maneuver in, and some drivers are now quickly making the change to snow or even all-season tires. Owner of Victor's Tires says it's been good today. His shops around the Salt Lake Valley have been booming with business.
It's been a big day today. I mean, everybody wants to switch tires the last minute, so, you know, when snow happens like this, you know, you get jammed.
The laugh says it all. Make sure you have the right tires if you're living near some of these areas prone to some snowy conditions that we've seen over the last few days, and that might come this week. This might not be the last time that we see snow this winter in the state of Utah.
Switching gears right now, we turn to coronavirus here in Utah, and Utah saw 1,500 new COVID-19 cases today. That continues to show a downward trend in case growth. Our weekly positivity rate is at 19%. ICU beds in the state are at 88% capacity.
The deaths of 13 more people have been attributed to the virus, 5 women and 8 men. The victims from Salt Lake, Uinta, Utah, Washington, and Weber counties.
On the vaccine front, more than 200,000 first doses of the vaccine have been administered in our state. 28,000 Utahns have already received their recommended second dose. Well, this week, the Salt Lake County Health Department will begin to administer vaccines to people experiencing homelessness. The 4th Street Clinic will begin vaccinating people over 70 at their headquarters early this week. And then next week, the clinic's mobile healthcare program will be distributing vaccines at homeless resource centers. Any extra doses, we understand, will go to people with pre-existing health conditions. Tomorrow, the Utah Department of Corrections will begin to vaccinate approximately 79 inmates over the age of 70 at the Utah State Prison in Draper. Both the Utah Department of Health and the Salt Lake County Health Department are providing these initial doses to the prison. A full-scale rollout of the vaccine within correctional facilities is planned as part of Phase 2 of the state's vaccine rollout process.
In your national news, Utah Senator Mitt Romney making his rounds on national television, including an appearance right here on Fox 13 for Fox News Sunday. It comes one day before the House is set to formally walk the article of impeachment against former President Donald Trump to the Senate. Now, Senator Romney is calling for unity across both sides of the aisle, but he says it begins by holding President Trump accountable for the attack on the U.S. Capitol.
I believe that what is being alleged and what we saw, which is incitement to insurrection, is an impeachable offense. If not, what is?
Utah Senator Mitt Romney sounding off on a number of topics Sunday morning, including the upcoming impeachment trials of President Donald Trump, as well as the validity of presidential election results.
There were thousands upon thousands of people who continued to spread the idea that the election had been stolen. And I hope people step back and say, where was it that the president got the idea that the election was fraudulently delivered?
Romney was the only Republican to vote to convict President Trump during his first impeachment trial last year. He says if it comes to it, his next impeachment vote would be based upon the facts and evidence presented.
These allegations are very serious. They haven't been defended yet by the president. He deserves a chance to have that heard.
Romney telling CNN that he thinks history will provide a measure of judgment when it comes to those who continue to push forward with President Trump's narrative about a fraudulent election.
The reality is this is something that was made up. It's had enormous damage, and those that participated in spreading that, I think, will recognize that they now have a responsibility to set the record straight and to say, in fact, we never did see hard evidence of a widespread fraud of the nature that would reverse the election.
Looking ahead to work with the Biden administration, Senator Romney met with other lawmakers and the president's economic team Sunday to discuss the proposed $1.9 trillion relief plan. While the senator says he will continue to have an open mind, he thinks with the relief package just passed last month, it's too much, too soon.
How has the first $900 billion we just passed a couple of weeks ago, how has that been distributed? Most of it hasn't been yet. What impact will that have?
In terms of the future and working across the aisle for items within the Biden agenda, Senator Romney believes that both Democrats and Republicans have already demonstrated their ability to work together, now based off of their compromise on that $900 billion stimulus package in December. Senator Romney was among the handful that helped come up with that stimulus deal.
Now, also in our nation's capital, the Utah National Guard wrapping up an assignment in Washington as they now prepare to come home. Fox 13's John Franke takes a look at their mission, protecting the inauguration of President Joe Biden.
After the riot at the Capitol on January 6th, the Guard and so many of us did not know what to expect last week at the inauguration. As they reflect on their assignment and the chaos that didn't happen, that was actually replaced by what turned out to be a memorable experience.
It was an honor to be here.
National Guard soldiers take an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States. That's exactly what the Utah National Guard did in Washington, D.C.
Real privilege to be able to be part of an inauguration. And again, as I mentioned before, a peaceful transfer of authority.
The inauguration of President Joe Biden happened without violence or disruption.
What we saw was calm.
Major Mangum explained the assigned position for the Utah National Guard did not allow the soldiers to see the ceremony with their own eyes.
To be out here and be a part of it, it was a pretty special experience. I know that for a lot of our soldiers, this is their first time to the National Capitol.
A peaceful week allowed them to enjoy the experience.
The buildings that we were at, they had quotes on the walls from the founding fathers, and you could see the soldiers walking around during the day, pausing, looking at them, reflecting on them, and how that connects to them.
This likely won't be the last time the National Guard is called to protect the transfer of power.
You can see what happened to airports after the 9/11 attack. The security became a permanent security.
It's impossible to know if future inaugurations will come with the tensions felt this year.
The seamless nature that we interacted and integrated with the local authorities, I can imagine that they would want to call on us again for support because it went so well.
But this experience is ending with memories that won't soon be forgotten, and for all the right reasons.
For the rest of their lives, be able to tell their grandchildren really that they were here for an inauguration.
Major Mangum and the Utah National Guard members expect to fly home from D.C. sometime this week. In the newsroom, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thanks so much, John. Lots more ahead here on Fox 13 News at 9. Coming up, we've got an update on a Utah Valley University grad who walked across the country. We're going to catch up with him shortly after he finished his journey from coast to coast.
It's about safety, it's about health, and it's about the food. We'll show you how Vessel Kitchen has been able to find innovative ways to be successful during the pandemic.
And it's an ongoing debate. Do we further develop parts of downtown Salt Lake City, or do we preserve old buildings that are parts of the city's rich history? We take an in-depth look for you in tonight's 360 report coming up at 9:30. Now to a developing story tonight. At least 2 people were sent to the hospital in critical condition after a crash at 5400 South and Mountain View Corridor in West Valley City this afternoon. Police say the 2 victims were traveling west in a compact vehicle when they ran a red light and collided with a truck heading southbound. There were also 3 people inside of the truck. They left the scene unharmed. We'll bring you updates on this story as we continue to learn more.
In crime-related news now, in South Salt Lake, police are investigating a shooting there that left a man in critical condition. This happened at 10:30 last night at 854 West Timber Creek Way. Police have located their person of interest in this case, but they'd like you to call South Salt Lake PD if you have any tips to pass along.
Davis County Search and Rescue had a busy morning after a driver got trapped in the snow above the Bountiful Bee overnight. After about 2 hours, crews were able to safely help the driver off of the mountain.
In the Cache Valley, 3 men there lucky to be alive this weekend after their car jumped the Logan River and struck a tree. Neighbors heard the crash and jumped into action, helping pull those men out of the vehicle. They were hospitalized with minor injuries. Police are now investigating the crash.
2 people have been arrested for their role in an apartment fire in downtown Salt Lake City that took place yesterday. According to court documents, 22-year-old Brianna Westry and 26-year-old Ryan Calquit were making drugs like MDMA in their apartment in a makeshift laboratory. Marijuana was also found in their apartment.
Well, a fire in Provo forced several people out of their home this weekend. It happened at 1080 East, 360 South late last night. Investigators say this one stayed mostly isolated to the attic and roof. And this fire was the first time that Provo Fire and Rescue was able to put their latest fire truck into service. Heavy Rescue 21 is designed for special response calls, and it will allow firefighters to respond quickly and more efficiently to fires throughout Utah County.
A lot of time and effort has been into this. It wouldn't have happened without great support from our mayor, city council, and also the citizens of Provo.
Just the latest tool in their arsenal there. Provo firefighters have been training on Heavy Rescue 21 since last November. The truck was just put into service on Monday. It is the first of its kind in Utah County. As we continue to rebound, restaurant owners have been forced to find new and innovative ways of bringing in business during this pandemic.
Fox 13's Sydney Glenn takes us to Vessel Kitchen in downtown Salt Lake City, where they have found a way to not only stay open, but expand during the past year.
The co-founder here at Vessel Kitchen says one of the ways they've really been able to have success during this time is instead of focusing so much right here on that dine-in experience, they've transferred that into the takeout experience, and that's really what people are doing right now. Masks, sanitizing stations, socially distanced tables.
Everything from top to bottom has changed, from hiring and staffing to COVID protocols, sanitation. We have a new curbside service, even just the fact that my staff are now in masks.
The management at Vessel Kitchen has had to pivot and adapt this year.
Didn't want to just rest on our laurels and say that, the circumstances were too difficult.
The co-founder of Vessel Kitchen said last March, as the world shut down for COVID-19, they were in the process of expanding and building a new restaurant.
We had to look at each other and say, do we have the conviction to keep this thing going?
They decided they did. And through nearly the last year now, the founders and management of Vessel Kitchen have had to pivot and learn through trial and error how to be successful.
We've had some significant losses at some of our store, and the fact of the matter is that, we've tried to just continue to look ahead and have conviction in what we do, and despite the losses, and some of them significant that we suffered at each store, just again, try to stay true to who we are.
The group has focused on what they're good at, food, and found new ways to drum up business.
Our restaurant and the concept bodes well for takeout, which is great.
They focused on curbside, takeout, and delivery services, which they credit for keeping their 4 restaurants afloat, while they followed one principle.
Let's make sure that we've done everything in our power to take care of our staff and to be as creative as possible to persevere throughout what would be a very tumultuous next year.
The co-founder says, well, right now they don't have any plans to expand Vessel Kitchen. It's not something that's out of the question because they really have been able to not only sustain business, but have success during this pandemic. In Salt Lake City, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A first alert action day in effect for southern and central Utah. Here's a live look at some snow-covered roads in southeast Utah, Monticello, from one of UDOT's cameras in the area. We did see plows going through that area earlier tonight as well.
Look at that. Some of these areas, Breck, don't see that much snow. You were even talking about snow in St. George.
I know, yeah, accumulating on the ground there, impacting travel as we look towards tomorrow into Tuesday. Storm having a direct hit across southern Utah. We saw some snow showers, yes, across the southeast. Let's just say that as a teaser storm with a bigger one behind it that we need to talk about. Now, light snow falling in Salt Lake City. That's been the situation throughout most of the day. Posed some problems this morning as we had some slick roads, as we'll hold on to maybe some flurries here for the next couple of hours. Temperatures in the upper 20s. But let's take a look at St. George right now. This is going to be a focus turning towards your Monday morning, where right now it's 40 degrees, winds fairly calm, but it is the calm before the storm. As we look just off towards the west, an approaching storm system that gets there come tomorrow morning. Yes, that next storm mainly having an impact across central and southern Utah. As I mentioned, the travel concerns that we'll be experiencing a wintry mix along I-15 going from St. George all the way up through Nephi, especially come tomorrow late afternoon into the evening. But you get hit initially in St. George starting tomorrow morning, as that is one storm and additional storms behind it, which will have a wider impact across the state, especially as we look towards the end of the week. Let's focus in on this first storm. Yes, winter storm warnings in effect. You see that in pink. When we issue a warning, that means significant snow accumulations, and we're talking about the higher terrain. Models showing 1 foot to 2 feet in some locations, Pine Valley Mountains, potentially even more than that. Now, the valleys will be getting into the mix. That's the situation where we do have travel concerns, again, along I-15 as you go from Cedar City, heading through Cove Fort, Beaver, up through Fillmore, and then heading up through Nephi as well later on in the day. I-70 also in the mix as we look throughout Monday into Tuesday. But let's take a look at the computer models. Again, looking over the next 48 hours, how much snow will be falling in certain regions. Zion National Park, potentially 5 inches or more. Brian Head coming in with 8 inches, 1 foot, and Bryce Canyon. Again, as you go up in elevation, the more significant snow that we're going to see. But let's talk about the valleys, where as we look at that impact for areas such as Cedar City, we're talking 2 to 5 inches. Panguitch, 3 to 6 inches. Kanab, 3 to 5 inches. And yes, St. George, 1 to 3 inches. Now, you'll start off with kind of a mixture of rain and snow, and then tomorrow night through Tuesday, as temperatures do drop, you'll see that snow again accumulating as you look on the grassy surfaces and potentially maybe even on some of the roads. Now, looking at the satellite radar across the state, we have some clouds from northern Utah, still lingering showers as you see southeastern Utah. We showed you that in Monticello. That should begin to taper off once we get past midnight. As we look though, northern Utah, we can still see some flurries as it's filling in still with that light snow, which yes, with these cold temperatures could stick to the roads. So that could pose a problem for your Monday morning commute in some spots, especially as you look along the benches. Now, that next storm lining up, it gets here again tomorrow morning. Initially starting in St. George, moving northward, it does bring some moisture across portions of northern Utah. come into Tuesday morning, but really, as we'll see the significant snow, it's across the south. And again, as we look at the timing of the storm, Monday morning we see 7 a.m., 8 a.m., it's beginning to fill in, making its move further northward. It comes in 2 waves. It hits in the early morning hours, then a second wave as we head into the afternoon as we'll keep it going. Now, looking at the forecast for tonight, we'll kind of keep that chance of showers across St. George. Everywhere else, looking at mostly cloudy skies. It's the south that gets hit, moving through central Utah throughout the day as temperatures look to be cooler with a mixture of rain and snow, and then some snow showers on Tuesday. Then it's out of there for St. George. Friday you see some rain. Looks like it'll be okay for the weekend. Northern Utah, as we'll see just a brief chance of some snow showers Tuesday. Wednesday as well, very light in nature. A bigger storm though Thursday and Friday with some snow potentially for the weekend. Look at this active weather. 7 days, look at that. 5 of the days we get a chance of some showers.
Boy. All right, Brack, thank you so much for detailing it for us. Well, when we come back, some say a newly proposed highway in Utah could be an environmental disaster. We're going to take a look at both sides of the debate when it comes to the fate of the desert tortoise there in southern Utah.
Thanks for joining us tonight. The Bureau of Land Management and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have approved a 4-lane road through protected desert tortoise habitat in southern Utah.
This is a decision that opponents say will damage the reserve and the tortoises there, while supporters say it's vital for southern Utah's projected population growth. Fox 13's Spencer Joseph reports.
It's going to be jaw-dropping beautiful, to be honest with you, as well as solving a transportation problem.
Washington County Commissioner Dean Cox is talking about the Northern Corridor, a 4-lane highway that was approved to be built on protected land inhabited by the desert tortoise. The approved route by federal agencies was proposed by the Utah Department of Transportation.
What we're adding there is 6,800 acres. Now, the Northern Corridor is 58 acres of BLM land that we needed.
People who oppose the Northern Corridor say the road will damage protected land in the reserve and further threaten the Mojave Desert tortoise.
When you protect an area, it means you protect it for the habitat. You don't protect it for highways or anything else. You protect it for habitat.
Supporters of the road say it's a vital piece to the growing population in southern Utah.
We're projected to have a population of over 500,000 people by 2060.
Cox says the road isn't going to be built right away. Before the corridor can be built, it will need to be entirely re-engineered. That engineering plan has to be approved by the BLM and funded by the Utah State Legislature. Conserve Southwest Group says it's ready to file a suit fighting the approval if it's not overturned by the Biden administration.
The theory is you'd save a few minutes of a commute time by chomping through the best habitat for an endangered species. It doesn't make sense.
We also have to look out for the needs of people, too.
Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead in our next half hour, are we letting parts of Salt Lake City's rich history slip away? Hear from people who don't want to let that happen and why some say it's a necessary thing to continue to move forward. It's our latest 360 report.
And talk about an incredible journey. See what one Utah Valley University alumnus experienced walking across the United States with one of his best friends when we come back. Salt Lake City is growing, but to make way for new buildings, some old ones have to come down.
Are we parting with too much of our past? That's the topic of our latest 360 story. Here's Fox 13's Todd Tanner.
Behind a rather boring facade on Salt Lake City's main street near 100 South is a corridor very few feet have wandered down in recent decades. It leads to a cavernous vaudeville-era theater hidden away in the middle of a city block. Salt Lake City bought the theater in 2010 for $5.1 million. City officials told Fox 13 the theater would someday be restored, helping to secure Salt Lake City's reputation as a center of culture, art, and entertainment.
We've considered a Film Center. That was studied quite closely.
Mayor Jackie Biskupski, whose term ended last year, essentially gave the theater to a developer who plans to level it.
I think it was a mistake.
But in a booming city, how much history can be saved and what buildings are now most at risk? In this 360 report, we'll hear from a man who tried to save the Utah Theater, another who documents disappearing history, and the organization tasked with preservation.
Once they're gone, they're gone. We can't bring them back.
Pete Ashdown is a Salt Lake City businessman and resident who led the charge to save the Utah Theater, which opened in 1918 as part of the Pantages chain.
The ones in Minneapolis and Tacoma are twin sisters of the Salt Lake Theater, and both of those cities thought it was worthwhile to rehabilitate those theaters too.
Restoration could have cost upwards of $60 million. In exchange for giving it to a developer who plans to build a high-rise with 400 apartments, the city will get a small public park atop a new parking garage, and some of the theater's objects will be salvaged.
I feel like that is dressing up a corpse.
The developer also agreed to set aside roughly 40 apartments as affordable housing. Those who'll qualify for that affordable housing must earn between $39,000 and $49,250 per year.
Is Salt Lake City losing its character?
Nobody goes to Paris to stay in the housing.
With the theater issue over, Ashdown's attention is now elsewhere.
The Wasatch Plunge out on Beck Street. That was a beautiful Art Deco, again, terracotta building that has a large swimming pool on the inside.
Like the theater, it's a place where people mixed in the past, but is now vacant and owned by the city.
I think most places mean something to someone.
Jacob Barlow is a real estate agent who photographs Utah's buildings for his website and Facebook page with more than 60,000 followers.
The old 1890s to 1910s chapels, I think, are just beautiful. Those seem to be going away pretty quickly.
An LDS meeting house near North Temple and 600 West was torn down for redevelopment.
If you had to pick a building that you could wave a magic wand over and save that would be your number one priority, what would it be?
Probably I think it's the 15th ward. It's 900 West for South. I've heard rumors that it's going to be demolished because of earthquake damage.
The building was recently for sale. The listing said demolition was an option, but this building will get a reprieve. An official announcement from its new owner, we're told, is forthcoming. But another historic LDS church on Salt Lake City's west side might not be so lucky.
We've been following the fate of this building really since the late summer.
David Ammett heads Preservation Utah and is talking about the church at 400 North and 1100 West, which was sold by Salt Lake's redevelopment agency for $150,000 in 2020 to a man who said he'd turn it into a community center. Now he's asked for permission to tear it down and sell the land, citing earthquake damage. If that happens, he could come out hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead.
We feel like this building is viable. I know a number of other people who would be more than happy to buy it from the current property owner for the amount that he paid.
It's on the National Historic Register, but Ammett says that doesn't provide as many protections as people commonly think.
If you have a building on the National Register of Historic Places, you can still paint it fluorescent orange, you can blow it up.
In this instance, local regulations and demolition restrictions will come into play.
That is a building that I anticipate will have a bright future.
Also on Salt Lake City's west side, Preservation Utah is concerned about the Fisher Mansion, which the city also owns with no clear plans for its future.
When you build something, you really are putting down more than brick and stone and wood and glass. You are putting down values. You are putting down worldviews.
With that said, you may or may not be surprised to hear what else Preservation Utah would like to save.
We really are quite invested in trying to save the Utah State Penitentiary.
Ammett knows most of its 323 acres will be redeveloped, but would like to save a few core buildings.
There are thousands of stories that nobody knows in the prison that will be lost if that building goes.
Time will tell if the state values this particular piece of history or whether the demands of business and housing will win out like they have elsewhere, particularly in Salt Lake City.
Never heard anyone say, boy, I love 4 South. And I'm just going to leave it there.
Todd Tanner, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Coming up, conspiracy theories have run rampant over the past year. We'll show you how several groups are looking to clear the air and make sure people are equipped to not be persuaded by disinformation. This week is National News Literacy Week, and Fox 13 News is taking part in a campaign with the News Literacy Project to stress the importance of analyzing reporting to ensure its credibility.
It is such an important topic, especially right now with the rise of claims of fake news and the spread of false information online that's fueled dangerous conspiracy theories, among other things. Sasha Ingber with our partners at Newsy taking a closer look for us tonight.
Starting with fake COVID causes, cures, and the mainstreaming of the conspiracy theory QAnon online, 2020 was a year people fell down rabbit holes and entered the realm of the surreal.
The pandemic has offered QAnon a way to kind of worm itself into the lives of people who are home all the time now, don't have much to do, maybe aren't working.
The year of conspiracies ended with one that cut to the very heart of democracy, false claims of election fraud.
Day after day, it appears to these people who exist in this, this infoverse, that something new and outrageous and shocking has happened, and in their belief, why can't people see what's going on?
And it only grew more intense in January after rioters stormed the nation's Capitol building.
Conspiracy theories and disinformation may have found their way into your own social circle, but efforts to pull people out of rabbit holes and prevent them from falling in the first place are also developing and taking many forms, including online games.
We take real social media profiles, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Some of them are real people, some of them are created troll accounts. And we have the user guess, is it a troll or is it a real person?
News literacy courses are educating younger generations, teaching them about biases, propaganda, and how algorithms control what they see.
We're growing up immersed in technology and all these articles and things, so we really need to learn how to navigate that before we get older.
Analysts say bad actors often target people's emotions, so they post before thinking.
If they're including something like a warning of violence or a safety-related issue, we are most likely to, as the recipients, be seized by that information, become afraid immediately, and then want to warn our entire network.
That's one reason social network analysis firms have gotten better at exposing foreign influence operations before they gather traction.
The way this operation worked was that they were running accounts on LinkedIn. So they would approach bloggers and they would approach particularly novice journalists and say, hey, we're a new outlet. Do you want to write for us?
Still, national security officials say bad actors thrive on Americans with uninformed and polarizing ideologies.
We've seen our adversaries, instead of using the trolls and the bots, taking organic American ideas and amplifying them, which is really problematic.
While the pandemic has created more opportunities for false information to thrive, it's also compelled social media companies to take more responsibility for what people post.
The platforms have recognized this as an opportunity to take action against some of these communities. They can now say it's not just political, it's not just about votes, this is about lives.
The experts want people to think more about their roles in society, warning after deadly protest that the more hate-filled our rhetoric, the deeper, darker, and more dangerous our rabbit holes become. From Washington, Sasha Ingber, Newsy.
And you'd expect to see more stories on the importance of news literacy this week here at Fox 13. I talked to students who admit they find most of their news on social media, plus their BYU professor about the dangers of that and things to watch out for. We'll also show you behind the scenes here at Fox and take you through how a story comes in as a tip and then becomes a story you see right here on the news. That's coming up all week here at Fox 13.
Looking forward to that piece. Thank you, Amy. Up next, a UVU grad finishes his walk across the country. Hear about what he learned during his quest for peace.
Coming up in sports, matchup for Super Bowl 55 is set. I'll tell you who's in. Plus, the Utes took on the Huskies. And Utah and Tony Finau. Two-shot lead during the final round of the PGA Tour today. Could he hold on for his second win? Highlights are on the way.
Welcome back. We're so glad you could join us for Fox 13 News at 9 on this fine Sunday evening.
Yeah, we've got a Fox 13 News update for you from a story that we brought you first last summer.
You may remember the two friends who first met at Utah Valley University, who then put their lives on hold to walk across the country promoting peace in a very uncertain time for all of us. Now those Wolverines have finished their coast-to-coast journey.
Ashley Sampson sat down with one of them and shares what he learned experiencing our country one step at a time.
For many Americans, 2020 was a year of canceled plans and changed destinations. For James Thompson, it was the year he and a friend decided to hit the open road on foot.
It was definitely scary. After I told him, let's do it, I realized, what did I just commit myself to?
The plan, walk from San Francisco to Virginia Beach.
This walk was in response to all the chaos that was going on in the country, beginning of the summer with the riots.
They wanted to search for the good happening in our country during a time plagued with uncertainty and fear.
We saw the good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the good.
In Colorado, wildfires knocked them 150 miles off course.
We were just wondering if this was even worth it, if this was really making a difference.
But in all those miles, it was the moments that mattered, like the time a total stranger took them in.
This guy was amazing. He had a bed set up for us. Every day he would do our laundry, he'd fold our laundry, he'd make our bed.
And dozens of other instances where true kindness was found on the shoulder of a highway.
We saw people who would pull over on the side of the road, give us food, give us water, money.
But perhaps the biggest twist was when the duo arrived in Washington, D.C. on the morning of January 6th.
USA! We didn't plan to be in D.C. at that time. We had no idea that this rally was going to happen.
James says they decided to attend the rally at the Capitol.
The entire time, it was peaceful. There was prayer, there was singing.
Most people would stand there at 9 o'clock.
But he says he could feel things changing in the crowd and tensions rising.
I'm glad I acted on that feeling and impression, and we left.
A walk for peace, colliding with a sea of rioters.
Yeah, it's pretty ironic because we get there, all of this happens.
He said it caused some stress, but they just kept walking.
And we do have some challenges that we need to address, but I'm optimistic that, the country will come together and we'll figure it out.
And like on many long journeys where plans change and destinations are diverted, they didn't stop in Virginia Beach.
We've met some of the most kind people across the country in every state. They just went out of their way to support us.
Instead, they ended their 3,000-mile journey in Salisbury, Maryland, also known as Kindness City, USA.
The people were truly amazing.
I'm Ashley Sampson reporting.
Thompson now plans to write a book about his journey and all of the people he met along the way.
As we start things off, we've been talking about the storm hitting southern Utah. First, though, let me just share a photo coming in from Michael Bowman, tracking through Big Cottonwood Canyon under 2 feet of snow. Yeah, a fresh coat of snow here for northern Utah, but we're going to do a little bit of a flip-flop where this is going to be the scene across central and southern Utah, especially in the mountains where they're projected to get a foot to 2 feet of snow over the next couple of days. Let's take a look at your current conditions along the Wasatch Front, upper 20s in Salt Lake City, low 30s in Ogden, Provo as well. Still holding on just to a few light snow showers across the Salt Lake Valley. Could stick to the roads due to these cold temperatures, so we'll have to be a little cautious come tomorrow morning for the morning commute. Bigger concern, though, towards southern Utah. As we look ahead, long range, the computer model showing we are turning a corner. Still looking at long range, above normal precipitation across most of the state. We desperately need it. As we got the storm over the weekend, those storms will continue to line up. But again, the focus with this winter storm in effect that'll hit tomorrow morning, the focus will be across central and southern Utah. We have winter advisories and warnings in place. Impressive snow amounts is what we're projecting here. As we look ahead, showing you moving tonight through tomorrow morning into the noon hour. We're going to start seeing snow in St. George tomorrow morning. It's going to be a wet, heavy snow or a mixture of rain and snow. But as you make your move further northward along I-15 up through Cedar City, the snow will start falling and building up as we head into the afternoon. And then as we move through Monday into Tuesday, you can see that snow accumulation with all that area of dark blue. That's a range between 6 to 12 inches. You see a little purple there? That's getting close to 1.5 to 2 feet of snow. And we're talking like areas looking over from Zion National Park up through Bryce Canyon, Pine Valley Mountains, beneficial snow, but it's going to be treacherous for travel tomorrow along I-15 from St. George all the way through Fillmore, but some of that moisture will make its move even as far north as Nephi. I-70 all the way as you go near Richfield, tracking over towards Green River, also a concern spot. Now, I mentioned the light snow falling across Salt Lake Valley. Those flurries still in effect here for the next couple of hours. Not much activity across southern Utah as of yet, but that storm making its move, now positioning itself, moving towards Southern California. We'll start seeing some showers overnight in Vegas and then hitting St. George come tomorrow morning. So take a look at your hour-by-hour forecast. First, along the Wasatch Front, we're starting off your Monday morning, cold, cloudy. Temperatures, well, a little bit cooler expected tomorrow, but we don't see the showers. St. George, different story. Hour-by-hour forecast, you see that mixture of rain and snow. Snow potentially in some spots could be sticking to the grassy surfaces, but again, it's going to be wet roads all the way up as you move from St. George through Cedar City, pushing up through Beaver in the morning, and then moving further northward as we track through the day. Highs tomorrow in the 40s along the Wasatch Front, a little cooler across central and southern Utah, mid-40s in St. George, where for St. George, it's a mixture of rain and snow. Snow showers on Tuesday, as we could see snow sticking to the roads in some spots. Friday, a chance of some rain, then we're good to go heading into the weekend. Northern Utah, we don't see big storms, but chances for snow on Tuesday into Wednesday. Thursday and Friday, another storm will bring a mixture of rain and snow with potentially some snow showers on Saturday. All in all, it's a wet weather pattern as we need the snow, and we're going to get it this week.
Utah Tony Finau won his first PGA Tour title in the 2016 Puerto Rico Open. Since then, he's been so close to winning number 2 with 6 runner-up finishes and 35 top 10s. Back in contention this week, tied for the lead going into the final round of the American Express. Tony got off to a great start at the stadium course at PGA West in La Quinta, California. Made birdie on the first hole to start his round. Then at number 2, hit a great approach shot from just 99 yards out. Set up another birdie. Gave him a 2-shot lead, so great start for Tony. He was back by 1 shot at the 10th, but he had this putt for the share of the lead. He made it, but a bogey on the next hole was costly. Tony shot a final round 68, finished in 4th place, 4 shots back. Patrick Cantlay played an incredible final round. Birdie on the 18th hole, rolls it in. He fired a 61. Had the lead at 22 under par, but Siwoo Kim made back-to-back birdies at 16 and here at 17. Put him on top. He's the winner, 23 under par. NFL playoffs, the Bucs and Packers in the NFC Championship game. Opening drive of the game, Tom Brady to Mike Evans, 15-yard touchdown, 7-0 lead. The Packers answered back early in the second quarter. Aaron Rodgers to Marquez Valdes-Scantling loses his defender, 50-yard score, tied at 7. Buccaneers finished the first half strong. Leonard Fournette, tough run here, breaks free, then how about that spin move? Gets in for the touchdown, 14-7 Bucs. Then in the final seconds before the half, Brady airs it out to Scott Miller. 39-yard score gave the Buccaneers a 21-10 lead at the break. They won it 31-26. They'll play on their home field for Super Bowl 55. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes cleared concussion protocol to play in the AFC Championship game against the Bills. Buffalo jumped out to the early lead, turned a fumble punt return into a points. Josh Allen to Dawson Knox. Bills led it by 9, but Kansas City then scored 21 straight points. Mahomes to Mecole Hardman. Chiefs led it 21-12 at the half. Third quarter, Holmes flips it forward to Travis Kelce. Chiefs up 16. Then Mahomes in the 4th went back to Kelce, another score. The Chiefs won it 38-24, so the defending champs back in the Super Bowl. They'll play the Buccaneers in 2 weeks. The Utes went after their second straight win in Washington as they took on the Huskies. Second half, Timmy Allen drives and scores, put the Utes up by 2. He played some good basketball. Here he made some more big plays. Drives and dishes to Brandon Carlson, who throws it down. Then Timmy gets another one of his 10 assists. Carlson hit the 3. Utes were up 4. Brandon led the Utes with 18 points. It was a tough down the stretch, though. Allen with 2 of his 15 points. Utes were up 3 with 4.5 to play. But the Utes had a couple of costly turnovers in the final minute, and the Huskies won it 83-79 after ending the game on a 7-0 run. Coming up tonight on the Fox 13 Sports page, we'll hear from the Jazz after their 8th win in a row, plus plenty of college basketball with the Utes, Cougars, and Aggies. We'll be right back.
One local group held a free pet vaccination clinic today to lessen the burden on animal shelters during this pandemic. Rough Haven Crisis Sheltering set up in Glendale to provide cat and dog vaccinations for underserved communities in the Salt Lake Valley. 126 people were able to drive up with their furry friend to get a free vaccination, microchip, name tag, and pet food.
This weekend, some brave cold weather fans headed to Bear Lake for the annual Winterfest. The fun, including food, a homemade boat race, costume contests, and of course, a monster polar plunge into the lake. All proceeds went to the Family Place Center in Logan, which helps find shelter for families during a crisis.
All for a good cause, but boy, that had to be cold. Finally tonight, the legendary Berlin candy bomber Gail Halvorsen lives to fight another day. Halvorsen is famous for dropping candy from his aircraft to children in the Soviet Union, flying over a blockaded West Berlin. Halvorsen turned 100 years old last year, but recently he tested positive for COVID-19. We're happy to report that he has fully recovered from the virus and is back, we understand, in an assisted living facility.
Resilient.
Wish him the best.
Glad to hear he is doing well. Thanks for watching Fox 13 News at 9.
QuickCast is coming up next.